Hi, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started today. So this is our 13th session on our path to Google certification. And this is the same slide deck that we've been using. And again, you can get here by going to this address at the bottom. It's bit.ly/path2gc1. And that will get you to the slide deck. So you can, number one, you can go back and review what we've already talked about. And we also have some assignments on here that will just help you get even more prepared for taking that test if you want to take it. Now, again, you don't have to take the test. We're just showing you some information, some really good content as to how you can actually do better with Google stuff in your classroom. And if you want to go towards the testing route, hopefully we're going to prepare you for that as well. So I'm going to exit this from that view right there. And this is actually our third session for Google Classroom. Google Classroom continues to add things and integrate, and it's really just become a great product to use, great app to use. And my session is actually where things can go wrong. So they knew that I knew how to make things go wrong, and they're like, "You're the pro at this, so you get to do this session." So your homework this time, and I often forget to tell you about the homework. I call it homework, but it's really just a practice task. Is to watch this video, and this video was created by yours truly, by me, and I compared like a side-by-side illustration of a student view versus the teacher view inside Google Classroom. And that will really help you see some of the differences that your students see that you may not see on the teacher end, because there are some differences for sure, and it will help you troubleshoot with your students when they're having trouble turning in assignments, seeing assignments, completing assignments, and so forth, okay? It also give you a heads up on what you can look for when it says turned in versus marked as done versus draft. All those terms are a little confusing, but once you get a hang of it, you'll know what they're looking for. So it's a great video to watch, not because I created it, but because it does give you that side-by-side illustration, and you don't always get to see that since you're in teacher mode most of the time, okay? All right, also a couple things down here for troubleshooting issues. We're gonna go over a couple of that today, a couple of tips. But there is a video that you can watch, and it's actually my in and out Google Classroom burger video. And it's really just what I have found while working with teachers, some of the issues that I've come across, and how we can get around it or what it means. If you can figure out what it means, then you can usually fix the problem. Um, the video, I think, is about 30 minutes because it's an actual session, and the slide deck is right here. So I hope that you can kind of go back to these, go back to this video here, the slide deck, and then definitely watch this video over here. So we're going to go ahead and start. This will hopefully take about 25 minutes, I guess. I'm kind of shooting for that range there, so hopefully we'll be done by then. So first thing we'll look at is assigning Google quizzes through Google Classroom. So I'm going to head into my Google Classroom here. And I'll be admitting people as I speak. So there's another person that's going to get in here. So I would go to classwork, and this is how you create a Google quiz. So you go to create, and here's assignment right here, quiz assignment, okay? And when it does that, it automatically puts in a blank quiz for you. So we're not going to use that, but we're going to talk about it a little bit. So I'm going to put in a title here, and this is going to call the best test for you. Yep, that's what it is. Best test for you. And the directions are to complete the quiz and submit. Okay, now this is where we kind of run into trouble. If you add another file here, you lose some functionality. And one thing that you want to do is you want to keep this grade importing feature turned on. And what that does is whenever students have taken a quiz and they submit it, those quiz grades will actually populate inside your grading tabs feature on Google Classroom. So that's going to make it a little bit easier for you to get those grades inside your classroom so you can work with them from there. But if I add another file here, I'll just want to show you what this looks like. So if I go here, and maybe they need to watch a YouTube video or something before they take the quiz because they're a little rusty. You want to give them some reinforcement of what to look at. So let's say I'll add a YouTube video here, and we'll just do a little search for math, adding fractions. Do a little search here. And we'll use this one right here, and then I click on add. Okay, so once I do that, even though it really hasn't changed anything about this quiz here, the grade importing feature is now not available. Okay, it's because I have two things selected here, and I can only have the quiz when I'm doing a quiz assignment. Okay, so I want to keep that turned on. So just go ahead and get rid of that YouTube video. I don't need to watch it anyway. Now, if the students do need to do something ahead of time, then give them an assignment that they need to complete before they do their quiz, okay? So another thing to think about here is, since we're in NTI mode, this locked mode on Chromebooks, you do not want to turn that on, because number one, it's going to limit them to taking it on a Chromebook. And they may not be using a Chromebook. Maybe they're using mom and dad's computer, or mom and dad's laptop, or their grandparents' computer, whatever it may be. They may not have a Chromebook with them. Now, that's a beautiful thing to use in the classroom, though, because what it does is it gives you like a lockdown browser inside your classroom, your physical classroom, when the kids are taking the quiz. And what that means is they cannot exit out of the quiz without you knowing about it. Okay, there's an X button where they can actually leave the quiz. And if they do that, if they go, leave the quiz and maybe they go search on the internet for some answers, then you will get an email that lets you know that they are doing that. Okay, and it works really well. There is some kind of delay, probably 3 or 4 minutes, but depending on the internet speed and so forth, whatever's going on, but it will give you an email. So now, since we're in NTI mode, we're gonna leave this off though, okay? All right, because that limits them to a Chromebook. And if they don't have a Chromebook with them, they couldn't take the quiz. So I'm gonna add a different quiz here. So I'm gonna click that right there and delete that. So I'll go right here to add, and then I'm gonna go to Google Drive. And I'm gonna find a quiz here in my drive. All right, I'm gonna search for the best test. And there's a copy right there, so I'll click on that and I will add it here. Okay, grade importing is still on, that's good. So I'm gonna go over here to where I assign this. I'm gonna assign it to this class. I'm gonna do all of my students. I'm gonna change the point value to 25 points. Due date, I'm gonna give it a due date and actually let that be due, maybe the 25th, sounds like a good time. Topic is math. I think it's math, it may not be math. I'll just put it at homeroom time, and I can always change that later if I want to. Okay, so then I'm gonna go to assign here, and voila, we're done. Now, I'm gonna get into my daughter's account in just a minute, and we're going to actually take that quiz, okay? But what I wanna do before that is I wanna go back into classwork. I'm gonna create something else. So we're kind of hopping around a little bit today, and that's okay, because we got some odds and ends to cover today. So I'm going to create, and we're going to talk about actually using the originality reports and using rubrics, okay? So right here, I'm going to go to assignment, and I'm going to type in a title here. This is analysis of JFK moon speech, okay? And I want to say something like, write, let's see, write an essay analyzing the moon speech. Okay, and then I can add a document here. I'll go to my Google Drive, type in moon speech. Acting pretty slow today. So I'm just kind of crossing my fingers that it'll find it and wake up here a little bit. All right, well, it didn't capture any of my typing, so that's okay. We'll type it over. Okay, so here we go. That's JFK's moon speech right there. All right, and I'm going to make a copy for every single student. Okay, I'm going to pretend that this actually is a copy where they can write inside it. And then over here, I'm going to assign it, and points, I'll make that 20 points. All right, no due date. Category, the topic is going to be social studies. Okay, and let's talk about this right here. So rubric and originality reports. So let's talk about originality reports first. If I click on that, what it does, and it lets me know how many of these I've already used. So I'm gonna press continue. And what it does is it can compares what the students have written across thousands and thousands of different documents on the internet to see if there's any that are like it. So in other words, we're looking for opportunities that could be plagiarism, or maybe opportunities that students just forgot to cite their work inside what they were analyzing or what they were typing. So if they forgot to cite the work, it's going to give them a little heads up that, hey, this passage right here, or these sentences, were easily found on the internet, and it needs some citation because it's very similar to something else on the internet. Okay, so that works that way. And I'll show you how that works when we get to my daughter's page in just a second. Now let's talk about rubrics. So rubrics are right here, and I can create a rubric, I can reuse a rubric, or I can import one from Sheets. Personally, I've never done this part, importing from Sheets, before. So if you want to try that out, that would be awesome. I would love to hear some feedback how that works. But I'm going to show you how to create one here. Okay, so what it does is it titles it for you, and you have some criterion here. You also have a description, so you have a title, and so this could be something like JFK moon speech. I'll put rubric, okay? And then I can add some descriptions here. Maybe this is mechanics, maybe it's grammar, spelling, maybe it's the body of the paragraphs, maybe it's the introduction and the conclusion, whatever it may be. And then you can choose how many points this section is going to have. So I kind of like, the 5, 4, 3, 2 way to do that, like distinguished, proficient, apprentice, and novice, and so forth. You can do that, and they can just keep adding different sections. Okay, so I could have 4 points here. Maybe that's for proficient. I have 3 points here, and then 2 points for novice, whatever it may be. And then a title, so this could be distinguished, and so on. And then you would give a description of what you're actually looking at. So if this was intro and conclusion, then you could describe what you're looking for a student to receive a 5 for that topic. Okay, and notice it's keeping your points total up here. This is your total points for all of the rubric so far. Only have one section that has 5 points, so it's a total of 5. Then I can add another criterion here. Maybe this is mechanics and spelling, okay? And I can add the total number of points here as well, okay? And notice those are changing and updating, okay? Now, I'm not going to use this one. I just want to show you how that looks. I'm going to use one that I've already created because it looks a little bit, well, it's more complete. I want to show you what it looks like. And I actually used it on another assignment, so it remembers your rubrics that you have created and associates it with different assignments that you've used before. So if I go back here to rubric and I go to reuse rubric, then that rubric I've already created is right here, and I'm going to click on it, and it was worth 25 points. I may have to change my point value in just a second. I'll let you look at the preview of that and how that looks. Okay, so I have intro and conclusion, background, history, blah, blah, blah. And then I have what it takes to be distinguished, proficient, apprentice, and so on. And the point totals are here, organization, style, whatever choices that you want to put in your rubric, you can do it easily by making and creating a rubric inside Google Classroom. Okay, so now I'm going to take you to an assignment where I've actually used this, and I'll show you how that looks with grading. Okay, so I don't need to assign this right now because this was just an example. So I'm going to hop out of here. And I'm going to go over here to the stream. And there's that test that I just created. It's right there. Now here's that assignment that I made with the rubric. And I will show you what that looks like. Okay. So I'm going to click on this. And I notice that one person has turned it in. And I'm going to show you what that looks like for her. So I'll click on this, and this will show you a couple things. This is actually my daughter's account. She didn't do any of this work. I pretty much copied it straight from the internet in certain sections. I apologize for that. So now remember that originality report? Here it is right here, and it's showing, and it says 5 flagged passages. So I can click on this. So hopefully you've seen this before with the other videos, how we can grade things. So you're familiar with this interface. This is where we're grading essays and grading anything that's been turned in, files that have been turned in. So I can click on this right here. And now I can see that there's 5 flagged passages, 2 cited or quoted passages. And now I can see where some of these passages got a really high score for a match. Now, it may not be perfectly worded exactly like this, but it's a match that they created. They found one in time.com, and they also found one at coursehero.com. So if I click on this right here, then I click on the passage, okay, it's pointing to this passage right here, and then the web match is right here, and look how similar they are, okay? Then I can go back, and I can look at the others. Okay, let's see. Yep, let's look at this one right here. So this one, I scroll down a little bit, it's pointing to this one down here. It says FDR used a variety. It highlights that part of the assignment for you, and then it shows you where that top web match is. Okay, so maybe it's just they forgot to cite properly. You know, I didn't go through here and look for citing. Let's see if there anything is cited in this paper. Nope, nothing is cited. Okay, so maybe they need to go back and cite it properly, or maybe they need to change the wording and make the words be their own word choices and not something that is easily found on the web. Okay, now let's talk about grading with that rubric. Okay, so right here I have that she has scored a 21 out of 25. It automatically makes that into a percentage here, so it's an 84%. So if you notice, these little blocks here, if I hover over them, they show me what they're referring to. So this is the distinguished, this is proficient, 3 points for apprentice, and then 2 points for novice. It makes it really easy. So if you know what these look like, you know, after a while you grade a couple of these or a couple hundred, you're going to know exactly what these stand for inside the introduction. So I can click right here, and then that changes the grade. Maybe they have a distinguished in the introduction area, and that changes the grade to 5 out of 5. It updates automatically as I go. So maybe the main points, maybe instead of distinguished, she actually earned a proficient. So that changes the grades as we go there. So it's a really nice, easy way to grade content. And maybe you have a cheat sheet that you're looking at, a piece of paper that actually has that rubric printed out for you. So you don't have, so you can just kind of look up and down and, you know, change these at will, okay? So it's easy to do. All right, perfect. So that is how you can use a rubric. If I wanted to see these on here, the descriptions, then I can go through each one of these. I'll just need to scroll down a little bit, and I can see these, and I can mark them that way as well. Okay, so when I'm first starting out, I will probably do a lot of this, and then I'll remember exactly what I'm looking for, and then I can just go ahead and click those little cells, and it's easier to do it that way. Now, after you're done, you're going to return the assignment. You might want to go down here and make a private comment and so on. We've talked about that before. And then when you're done, you'll just return the assignment to the student. Okay. All right. So let's go to my daughter's account and look at a few things there before we move on. So I have her logged in an incognito window, and this is how things are looking for her. And I wanted to show this to you for a couple reasons. We're used to talking about something being turned in. Have you turned in your assignment? Well, really, there's only when they're looking at a Google Doc, when they're actually editing it and typing out their assignment on a Google Doc, that's the only place they'll really see that turn in button inside an assignment like that. So our language kind of needs to change, because they may be saying something like marked as done, but it's really, you're saying turned in, and they're a little confused. And now, after they're an expert of this, several months of doing this, they know what you're talking about and they can figure it out. But first, just doing an NTI where it's kind of hard to see what they're seeing, because you can't go to their Chromebook and just look over their shoulder and see what they're working on. It's a little bit more difficult. So I'm going to try to explain what some of that looks like here. So let's look at some of these questions that she has answered, and just kind of talk about what it looks like for them. So let's look at this one right here. So in this assignment, all they had to do was, it says read the directions in the doc and answer the question using correct grammar and complete sentences. Well, all that's on this one is just a video. There really isn't a doc for them to actually create. Now, they can go right here and add or create one, and I think I have one for them right there. But right here, they're not seeing that. Okay, so if I click on this, okay, now she actually has a doc with this one, and that's fine. And in it, let's wait for it to load up. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. Okay, so once she has responded, she has a turn in button here. Okay, and then she can turn it in. So I'm going to click on that. And I want you to see that from the student view. It says turn in your work, and it's like, yes, turn it in. Okay, so now this went from missing, which was in red, to turned in late. Okay, so that's just one of her assignments. Let me show you some others. All right, let's look at this quiz right here. Okay, we'll look at the quiz. Now with this one, I just assigned this quiz. Oh, actually I assigned it a couple days ago, actually. But she hasn't taken it yet. And she has a choice of marking it as done without even taking it. So I want to show you this though, because once she takes it, it will mark as done itself. And on your end, it will show that it's been turned in. So confusing language, but again, she can mark this without actually doing it. But if she does do it, it will mark itself. And I'll just look at this one that I created. So this is the one that actually has a rubric associated with it. And so I'm going to click on that. Now, the video that I created that I'm pointing to in our slide deck, if you want to go through that video, all those assignments are fresh, and you can get a much better feel of how the student end looks. Right now, I just don't have that working for me. So on here, we have the rubric showing for her, and she can click on this and see what the rubric is asking for. Okay. She can go down to the next section and see what the rubric is asking for, and so forth. So that shows her exactly what she needs to do to make the best grade she can on this assignment. If I go over here to her work and click on that, and here's the assignment that she has done. And right now, she would have to request edit access for this because she's already submitted it to me, okay? So here's that. You can see that I'm actually logged into this page because it shows that arrow for Jerry Broyles. And so that flag is showing that I'm on that page as well. Okay. All right. Let's go back to one more of these, I think. All right. Yep. Okay. By the way, I want to show you this as well. So this is a question that was given to her. Once she answered the question, she can see how many students have actually answered the question, which is 6, and she can see how many students answered, gave the answer for each one. So 0 students said 90, 5 students said 50, 1 student said 30, and so on. Okay. I think I just want to point you back to that video because that's going to be a lot more helpful than looking at these assignments in this direction. Okay, you'll get to see a comparison of the student and the teacher, so that'd be much better for you. So let's hop out of here and let's go into troubleshooting a little bit. All right. So this is the slide deck that is attached, and we're going to go through just a couple of these. And these are scenarios where you've had a problem, and this will give you the answers, or at least let you know what's going on with that particular situation. And I just want to cover a couple of these. I've highlighted them here. And again, you can get to this slide deck by the bit.ly address here, which is also in the slide deck that we're showing to you for the Path to Google certification. It's bit/classroomburger with a capital C and capital B. Okay. So here's the topics we're going to cover here. And this may be a popular one. If we have students leaving the school or district, how do you take care of that inside your Google Classroom? So I'm going to go to where that is. It's on slide number 9. Okay, so if you have students that are moving to another district, and this definitely applies to our seniors as well, they will need to copy their files to a personal Gmail account or use Google Takeout. Now, if you click on this right here, this will take you to Dave Carty's blog and where he explains how to use Google Takeout, okay? Now, also when you do that, before they leave, let me go one more here. Before they leave, and at the end of the year, of course, everything that you have inside Google Classroom, all of those grades need to go into Infinite Campus before you have a student leave, okay? You can remove the student easily. It's easy to do, but once you do that, their grades will actually be deleted as well, okay? Their assignments stay in their Google Drive, but if they're leaving the district, their Google Drive will go into limbo status, and they won't be able to get their content out. That's why they need to take it out of their Google Drive and copy it to a personal Gmail account using Google Takeout. Okay, let's go through a few other of these. All right, let's talk about Guardian Summaries. So Guardian Summaries, some troubleshooting tips here. After you've invited parents to receive a Guardian Summary, they will get an email that looks just like this with that email address that they gave to you and the one that you used to invite them. So if you go to, once they receive that, they will get a choice. They will click on the link and it will open up a web page and it'll say something like this. This is actually a screenshot from it. It'll say that they have been invited to receive email summaries, and it'll give them a choice. So you see a choice, a drop down here between weekly, daily, and no summaries. Now, they can choose any of those. If they choose no summaries, they're not going to have an opportunity to see what's going on in your classroom. More than likely, they'll choose weekly, and that means on whatever day of the week, usually it's a Friday, they will see what's going on in the Google Classrooms. And if their child is in more than one Google Classroom, they'll get a summary of all those Google Classrooms if the teacher has Guardian Summaries turned on. So there is a place to turn that on and off inside the settings, okay? Then last, we noticed that some parents that they weren't able to accept the invitation. And what I figured out was they were using an older email address platform, such as yahoo.com, Hotmail, or even AOL. So when they have an older email address like that, those are not typically set up with a Google account like the modern email addresses are. So here are some tips where they can actually associate their old email address, whether it be AOL, Hotmail, whatever it may be, to a Google account. Okay, so there's some directions here. Okay, I've only seen that one time, so I'm glad it hasn't happened a whole lot. All right, we got a couple more to cover on our troubleshooting here and resubmitting assignments. So let's look at that real quick. And I know I'm at 2 o'clock, so I'm trying to be aware of that time. So here we go. So again, when students, if it's not a Google Doc, then if it's like a Google slide deck, or even maybe it's a Sheets assignment or something like that, then they will see the assignment, but they will not see that turn-in button. So remember, that turn-in button only shows here, or it shows inside a Google Doc. Now, it may say marked as done, but remember, once they turn it in, if you haven't graded yet that assignment, You know, maybe they forgot to add something and they had already turned it in. Like, oh, they're freaking out because they forgot to cite their sources or something. Then they can always go right here, because this is what it looks like for them after they click turn in. They can click on the unsubmit button, and then they can change that assignment and then turn it back in. Okay, so they do have an opportunity to do that before you have started grading it. Once you start grading it, then they kind of lose control or permissions to edit that document again. All right, so resubmitting assignments, if they want to resubmit something, then they'll have an opportunity to click on that after they've submitted it. Now, when they resubmit something, and this is after they've already graded it. See right here in this example, they can see that their grade is 17 out of 20. And this is where their document link is, but they have an opportunity to always resubmit. Now, you as a teacher, you can't really control that. You can control whether you're going to grade it again or not, but you can't control whether they resubmit it. Now, when they do that, you are notified in two different ways. You're notified here in the grading tab. Notice here it says resubmitted, so that assignment has already received a grade of 38, but they've resubmitted it. Okay. And then over here in your email, you will get an email notification saying that your student has resubmitted a certain assignment. Okay. So that's how that works. All right, one more thing that I think is pretty popular, and I'll show that to you right here, is Google Forms importing grades. And we've talked about this a little bit, and I'll just kind of reinforce what that looks like. By the way, whenever you have two files that you've attached or more, remember that grade importing button will not show, but you'll also get this message down here that reminds you. It says grade importing for a forms quiz cannot be enabled unless it's the only attachment to the assignment. Okay. Now, the other thing that you need to make sure of, and I didn't talk about this, is in your Google Forms, for this to work, the settings inside your Google form must be this. You have to collect email addresses, because that's how it talks back and forth to Google Classroom. You have to restrict it to only the Fayette County Public Schools. Okay, you can't have outside schools take it. I know that some of our tech schools actually have students from Woodford County and Jessamine County, so it has to be restricted to Fayette County Public Schools. And then the last thing is you have to limit it to one response. So if you have this unchecked, then it will not do the grade importing for you. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go back to that path to Google Classroom. Now, what we just went through was that slide deck. That slide deck I just showed you was the in and out Google Classroom burger. And there's a video that explains this a lot better and takes a little bit more time to explain it, because I feel like I was going pretty fast through that. Okay. Now, before we leave today, I know that we're at we're about 5 minutes over. So sorry about that, but we'll keep on going. Please be sure to watch this video. It's going to take you through that student side a lot better than I was able to show you today. And definitely it will compare the two, teacher view and the student view, and do a nice job of doing that. I'm going to look over my notes and make sure that I've covered everything I needed to today. And it looks like we're in good shape here. Okay. All right, so I will go ahead and end this session. Good luck going back through your homework. Your homework assignment is easy today. It's just watching a video. And we will do our next Google session starting on Monday. And I think we have 3 of them again next week. And I will go to questions over here in just a second. Thank you all for coming, and I hope you have a great day.